So this class is going to be personal protective measures. This is kind of one of my longest classes. There's a lot of information in here. I hope it helps. All right, so let's go. This class is on personal protective measures or individual protective measures. From the threat terrorist protection point of view. All right. So we're fortunate that terrorists are more likely to be influenced by the idea that when you're hungry, it is foolish to hunt a tiger when there are plenty of sheep to be had, meaning go after the weaker victim. This block of instructions is designed to teach you how to become a tiger instead of a sheep. We're going to teach you how to make yourself undesirable, and this is an individual responsibility. Nobody else can do it for you. The degree or the extent to which you make yourself undesirable as a target depends on how much you value your life and the lives of your loved ones or your friends or those around you, okay? So, class objectives. This is what we're going to try to cover today. What should be done before you leave on your trip or wherever you're going, stateside or overseas. How do you determine the terrorist threat in a high risk area? Even in the States, it could be a criminal threat. How terrorists identify and select their targets. What protection measures for movement as a pedestrian or driver can be used to make yourself a harder target. What protection measures can be taken when traveling by commercial air. We're going to discuss hotel and residential security. We're going to discuss protection measures in the office to include post-bomb recognition, and we're going to talk about doing a car bomb search for your vehicle. All right? So getting your mind right. To be prepared beforehand for any contingency is the greatest of all virtues. So, to determine the threat, where do we get information from? All right, some of this is kind of military based, so you want to gather as much information as possible on terrorists and terrorist activity and criminal activity in the area for your security or intelligence officer. Talk to them. You want to go to the S2, you can go to travel agency. If you're an individual company, you can go to your company office. I'm sure you have a security office. You can talk to them, read the news. The State Department has stuff online. Open source publications, news agencies, persons who are familiar with the area, maybe traveled there before you. The U.S. Embassy, uh, anti-terrorism schools. If you have access to some, talk to them. They easily track these things. There's a couple of companies that put out newsletters on this. Uh, Talk to the embassy or the State Department. They'll have information, and you can also contact the host country because they will have information too. And once you get this information, you need to disseminate it to everyone so everybody has the same knowledge. Okay. Now, you got to determine the threat information that's important to you. Right? You determine which groups may pose a threat to you and learn these groups' ideologies and goals. By learning all you can about terrorist groups, you may be able to lower your profile if you represent a target to them. In many cases, the history of an organization may provide an insight into the group's patterns. This is true of criminal groups too, people who kidnap. These patterns might show types of attacks conducted or key dates that show increases in activity, i.e. the anniversary date of the group's formation, their successes, defeats, deaths of members, etc. So, learn the nationalities of the victims being targeted in the area you're traveling to. Some terrorist groups, such as the Red Army faction, have published manifestos stating who the targets will be. A prime example is in June 2000, Osama bin Laden published a manifesto indicating Americans as targets for all organizations to strike at. This would immediately raise your security awareness. So determine the potential violence of the groups. Some groups are more violent than others. A good example of a truly violent group is the Japanese Red Army. They demonstrated this when they killed 14 of their own members for not conducting themselves as true revolutionaries. Their penchant for violence was further depicted in the Lode Airport massacre in 1972, in which 26 people were killed and 76 wounded in an attack by 3 JRA members armed with submachine guns and grenades. While JRA's mission was to kill Jews, the majority of those killed were Puerto Ricans on a tour of the Holy Land. Before the attack, the terrorists had made a pact that they would not come out of the operation alive. All right, you determine the present activity level of any terrorists or other threats in the areas you're going to. Do not forget about the criminal threat. As the terrorist groups in the area are active or in an organizing or reorganizing posture, or are they just laying low? Find out how sophisticated the groups are. Are they well organized, equipped, supported, or are they a young group that has not yet reached a sophisticated level of development? Generally speaking, the more sophisticated groups are, the greater threat they pose to people, especially travelers. You need to determine how much popular support the terrorists have in the area you're going to be working in. Some terrorist groups have popular support while others do not. Initially, the RAF, known as the Baader-Meinhof gang, enjoyed a small degree of popular support because their actions were supposedly in support of the working class against the exploitations of the industrial giants. However, they started losing support as they became more isolated and their acts became more criminal. A group may also intimidate or coerce a populace into providing support. The New People's Army of the Philippines carries out assassinations of village and town officials in an effort to control the local governments, thereby controlling the people. No matter how the terrorists have gained their support, it may not be wise to venture into certain areas that are supportive of terrorists and of, criminal gangs and activities. Never rule out gangs, narco gangs, narco terrorists, regular criminal gangs, etc. All right, and find out what the methods of operation the terrorists are using. When a certain method of operation is successfully used by a terrorist group, they will probably reuse the method in other operations. Also, other terrorist groups may copy the method and use it in their own operations as well. All right, and then learn what tactics the terrorists are employing. 3 manuals that many terrorists derive their tactics from are the Special Operations Techniques Manual, the Ranger Handbook, and Carlos Marighell's Mini Manual of the Urban Guerrilla. You also need to determine what types of attacks the terrorists are using. Many groups are not capable of performing certain acts or favor only one or two, symbolic acts or types of attacks. In other cases, they will publish manifestos stating who they will target. Also, you got to know the government policy on dealing with terrorists. For instance, U.S. military personnel generally do not make good kidnap victims because the U.S. policy in dealing with terrorism is they will not negotiate. Therefore, you probably should concern yourself more with assassination techniques such as bombing or ambushes and strengthen your personal protective measures against these types of violence. After determining the threat, apply the appropriate personal protective measures you have learned to your daily activities. You should raise and lower your personal protective measure or individual protective measure level according to the threat conditions that exist in your area. These conditions are not only the ones assigned by the embassy or your company or the State Department, but also the ones you assign to your daily activities, such as movement to and from work, checkpoints while traveling, etc. All right. So, how do we become a victim? You can become a victim of terrorism in the following ways. Wrong place, wrong time. You can become a victim by association. And this is just by associating with people who are going to become targets of either a terrorist organization or a criminalist organization. Right? Be aware of who you associate with. You could be a target of opportunity. And a target of opportunity is just you were there, didn't have a good security posture, they were there, they thought they could do it, and they did it, right? You're just robbed, kidnapped, shot just because of the situation and you were there. It wasn't planned. They don't know who you are. You're just a target of opportunity. All right. Increasingly, Americans are becoming more popular terrorist targets as they travel and do business throughout the world. And it's not getting any easier. And even if you're just traveling on pleasure, you're going to become a target. It is not just U.S. service members traveling abroad, but all Americans, whether on official business, vacation, or whatever the case may be, you're going to become a target. So when they're targeting people, they have what they call victim identification and selection. Remember the first slide. They don't want to hunt the tiger, they want to hunt the sheep. So identification of a victim is going to be based on importance. Belief of importance is perceived by both the individual and the terrorist. This doesn't mean how important or not important you know you are, but how someone who has never seen you before thinks you are. All your actions while under observation will determine what the person standing outside the fence sees. What he sees is the only things he knows. This is his reality as it concerns you. So if he sees you and thinks you important based upon what you're doing and you know you're not, it doesn't matter what you know. Government is very important persons out of respect or gratitude. Knowing wealthy people, working for the government, driving an expensive rental car, being met at the airport, being escorted around, having a chauffeur. All right. All these things that get you the VIP treatment, the red carpet treatment, is going to make you stand out and people are going to think you are important. Doesn't matter if you're not, and it's just a perk your company gave you or something else. It's about what people looking out see when they look in. Remember, it's about the perception of importance. It's not how important you think you are, it is how important you look to someone on the outside looking in, and that is all the information they have. So, other things that can identify you by belief of importance. So, mill group or embassy personnel use staff cars. All right, that makes people think they're important. A vehicle with diplomatic plates clearly suggests the presence of an important person. Request vehicles without this type of identification if you're doing government work. Avoid using this type of license plate whenever possible. All right, decals required by a base or an embassy should not be permanently affixed to the vehicle. Put them on things that you can show without having them stuck there because people out looking in parking lots are looking for that type of stuff, especially overseas. All right, you want to be as low profile as possible and do not get perceived as being important. All right. Chauffeurs and bodyguards. People who have chauffeurs are considered important. Do your own driving. If you must have a chauffeur initially, use them until you become familiar with the area and routes. Then decline the services. If your position requires that you have a personal chauffeur, you can decide which routes to use, what speed to use, and the pickup time. And you can even try to ride in the front seat so it seems like a friend's picking you up instead did you have a dedicated chauffeur. All right. Only a very important person or persons or someone who believes they're important will have a bodyguard. The more important the person, the more bodyguards he will have. Keep the number of bodyguards to a minimum if you have to have them. Make sure that both you and your bodyguards blend in with the local population. They should not be too obvious, which means they should blend in. Bodyguards, by firing the first shot, have often forced would-be kidnappers into becoming assassins. In many cases, bodyguards have even killed the people they were trying to protect during gunfights. Remember, bodyguards need to blend in so that people trying to observe you cannot gain knowledge of their strength, weapons, and deployment That way they cannot plan and it makes them more unpredictable. But if you don't need them, don't use them. All right. Many people believe that anyone driving expensive vehicles, especially private owned vehicles, are important. They're rich, and rich means important, right? Reduce your vulnerability by using the type of vehicle found in the local area. Tone down your implied importance. It's also going to make it difficult for criminals and terrorists to identify your vehicle if you're basically driving what everybody else is driving. So important people generally have designated parking spots closer to the office. This also endangers them and their family members and friends who might park in those spaces as well. You know, do not accept a designated parking spot. You shouldn't have any. Rotate your parking space often. If your office has allocated spaces and they are all in a certain area, renumber them and establish a system or raffle to randomly choose spaces daily or weekly. You do not want to park in the same place all the time. You do not want your parking space marked. It's like marking your car, right? It's just important to not be identified as important. Right. A lot of people don't do this anymore, but you'd be surprised overseas how many people still do. Carrying a briefcase, a pager, a cell phone, or a laptop characterize you as important. Yes, I know. Everybody uses cell phones or PDAs, but trust me, the stuff can still be identified with it. Place your papers, books, computers in a gym bag or in another inconspicuous holder. A lot of people use backpacks now. If you must use a briefcase, don't pick an expensive one. Place it in the trunk of the car while you're driving. Make sure your pager, and people still use them, and cell phone is concealed to avoid being obvious. The more expensive your cell phone, the more usually important you are, or you're just in debt. Everyone has a cell phone nowadays, but you can tell the difference between someone doing business and someone just running their mouth. There are pagers in use today. They're usually specific for on-call positions, allowing people to leave a facility and then getting contacted when issues arise. This usually has to do with hospitals and security personnel and other people who rotate positions, such as like sergeant of the guard. They're allowed to go to lunch. That way they don't have to have 16 phone numbers. They just call the pager who's on duty that day. All right. Identification by beliefs of importance, official and diplomatic passports, or special line privileges at the airport, or things like that. You need to use an unofficial or tourist passport whenever you can. If you must use your official passport to enter an area, keep it out of sight until you are required to show it and somebody asks for it. All right. Anything that will identify you as not one of the people is going to identify you as someone important, which makes you more likely to be a victim. All right. You need to appear to be a normal traveler. Try to blend in and try and be hard to identify as an American, especially when traveling overseas. All right. If everyone is avoiding you on the Paris metro, your shorts might be the reason why. Even as close to home as Mexico, people often comment how easy it is to spot an American tourist. Just look for the people wearing shorts. Walking while eating is a habit that is often seen as distinctly American. So if you're a U.S. resident who's out exploring the world, try to do things the local way and try to blend in. You might discover a new appreciation for food. All right. They even write articles about how easy it is to spot Americans when they're overseas. Just blend in as much as you can. Remember, any questions on what we've covered so far? Just hit me up. Perception. Remember, it's all about the perception of importance. It's not how important you know you are. It's how other people perceive your importance, how important you are. All right. So just remember, it's all about outside perception. So identification by name is another method used by terrorists and criminals. If you're in the newspaper a lot, Sometimes the use of names cannot be avoided. However, try to limit the use of names, especially full names, when talking or going over things. Names can be obtained from the following sources: aircraft loading manifests. These contain the sending unit, the receiving unit, basically who's sending it, who's getting it, where it's departing from, where it's going to land at. Remember, civilian airlines use these too. Every time you board an airplane, there's a loading manifest somewhere that's got everybody's name on it. Bills of lading. These are when you ship household goods or privately owned vehicles. Remember, it's going to have your name and address, could have your place you're coming from and where you're going to and what company you work for, etc. Immigration and custom forms. You know, they're going to ask for both these types of records. Contains names, addresses, and additional information. These records are supposed to be controlled, but most of the times, especially overseas, they're not. Unit rosters and unit rosters, family support, recall rosters. This is more geared towards the military, but you also have this in civilian companies now too. Family rosters. Everybody knows who's. You got a roster of who's married, who's not married, kids' names, etc., addresses, telephone numbers, all that stuff. These things can provide a lot of information that would be otherwise unobtainable, and they usually are listed or organized by the most important people at the top down to the least important people at the bottom. All right, so manning boards, even civilian companies use manning boards. These reports are usually up in somebody's office. In the military, it's the NCOIC or the commander of the unit, and it gives the individual's name, duty position, squad, platoon. It can be seen by anyone during duty or non-duty hours. Pictures can be taken. I've seen these in offices where they list, especially where there are rotational things going in, like guard rosters for commercial nuclear power plants or other things. So you just got to be aware that's what's out there. And telephone directories. Yeah, everybody talks about nobody uses telephone directories anymore, but believe it or not, they're still used. They're still out there. So a lot of people used to be a thing, would put their titles and stuff. They want to be called doctor, they want to be called colonel, etc. In the telephone book. You want to avoid that. Request an unlisted number, or just most people do away with landlines nowadays. Overseas, some places still have them, but all right. A lot of professional people like being in Who's Who's books. A Who's Who's book, an Army Green book, a float book, a U.S. Military Academy yearbook, a yearbook from a college, especially a prestigious college. Companies sometimes put out monthly or yearly newsletters, especially large companies, because they want to brag about how well they're doing. Many of these books contain photographs of individuals and short biographies. Oh, look, we just gained such and such as the new CEO, and they've been here and they've been here, and this is their wife, and she works here. You want to be avoid doing this, and you want to be avoid listening to these things. A lot of places, especially universities, colleges, and companies, have alumni web pages that can get hacked in. These pages list all the information that you send to them on your current status, where you live, what you do. Just be careful of what you put out there, because once it's put out there, it's hard to get back. So, online stuff. Nowadays, there are multiple online yellow pages or company and unit home pages that lists people, especially important ones, and they usually provide photographs, contact information, and biographies. All right. These are just some examples. So you want to stop doing things like that and quit being identified as someone important. So you have past identification files, especially at your company or unit. Most companies want to keep your records for a certain number of years and then they get rid of them, but do they really? And a lot of times they records kept on you are accessible by multiple people. There's very little control. All right, discarded mail. A lot of people throw shit away that you get, and it could have some valuable information on it. Could be used to start a dossier on the individual, or it could be used later to show where you live or to target you. You need to safeguard all your mail or remove address labels for magazines or the storage of magazines after you finish reading them. I mean, how many people have went to an office or somewhere and saw people bring in magazines for people to read in a reading room, and it's still got their personal address and other information on it? All right. Office correspondence, office stuff, office door labels, name tag, name tags, desk tags, things like that, memos. All these things provide valuable information to terrorists and criminal groups. You need to destroy all this correspondence when it is no longer needed. You know, if you have nameplates or your door plate, you're just telling people where to find you if somebody breaks into the building. So you want to avoid doing that if possible too. So, interviews and photos. You know, the news media, they want to get people on the news because they know people like seeing that stuff. You know, it's a good story. A news article could cause a terrorist organization or a criminal organization to take interest in you as an appropriate target. You know, avoid interviews and do not allow yourself to be photographed for news articles. If your job requires you to be interviewed or photographed, play down your importance and do not say or do anything that will antagonize or challenge any hostile forces. Once again, office correspondence. I cannot tell you, and this includes emails nowadays and text messages, because once you hit the send button or once it goes into distribution, you have no idea where that's going and who's going to see it. It could be forwarded a million times. Just be careful with what information you put out there, especially information about yourself. So wallet identification, things you carry in your pockets, all this stuff, if you're captured or taken, could identify you as someone as important. Pulling out that high-end credit card, pay for something is going to rich is important. Remember that is going to identify you as someone important. When you use ATMs, you know, be sure and protect your PIN number from people in the immediate area. Memorize your PIN. Don't keep it in your wallet. You know, always keep one eye open. You know, you just got to be careful, 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 careful. Government or corporate credit cards can be exchanged through your unit or your company, and just get ones that don't, just a generic business card. Okay, that's all you want, just generic cards. You don't want nothing fancy. Remember, it's all about what people see, not about what you know. So if there's questions on that, hit me up with it. So, all right, more about belief importance. Personal recognition, license plates. How many people have those license plates that, what do they call them? Vanity plates that make you stand out. People think you're important. When you're overseas in a lot of places, Americans are issued different colored license plates so they can be identified by local police and stuff. You want to avoid all that. You want to blend in. Decals. Avoid bumper stickers that identify schools, nationality, branch of service, rank, law enforcement affiliation, religious beliefs, depending on what country you're in, etc. Displaying an American flag or personalized license plate will easily identify you as someone who could be important or is at least an American, which makes you a target in some places. Just be careful with what you put out there. You would be surprised at the amount of information people put out on their personal vehicles or out in the atmosphere and just let people know what they are, who they are. All right. When traveling, luggage. Names, identification tags, stencils, decals, or origins on your luggage help identify you. All right, the terrorist waits to see who picks up the marked luggage, and they follow that person, thereby obtaining the individual's name, his location of origin, and possibly his home address and phone number. You know, there's not a lot you need to pick your luggage up at the airport, and you shouldn't put more than what the minimum is. And no fancy luggage. Everybody likes. If I just hate to keep saying this, but if they think you're rich, they think you're important. And fancy luggage and all that other stuff is going to identify you as a target. All right. Clothing usually sets us apart from locals, especially when we wear loud clothes in church with civilian or military slogans on them. Purchase the same types of clothes and footwear the locals wear. All right. Now we dress, personal behavior. All right. Some of our behavior, which is accepted in the United States, will not go over well in other countries, and it doesn't. Once again, they have whole websites dedicated to talking about the ugly American. Many Americans who are traveling have the tendency to be loud and obnoxious, drawing attention to themselves. Do not be the ugly American. Keep a low profile and try to blend in as much as possible. You may not pass as one of the locals, but you may pass as a traveler from another country. Do not make it easy for the threat. All right? How we talk, same way. Tattoos. If you have two tattoos with military, civilian, religious slogans or logos, cover them up when you go out by wearing a long sleeve shirt or jacket. You know, it's in some places that have U.S. government or military bus stops. It's difficult to figure out. It's not difficult to figure out who uses them. So when waiting at a government bus stop or basically any bus stop that is used by non-locals or by a majority of non-locals, don't stand at the bus stop itself. Stand some distance away from it until the bus is stopped and most arrivals are boarded, then board as quickly as possible. Avoid large groups while waiting at the stops because the larger the group of people that locals don't like, the bigger the target. Using U.S. currency increases your vulnerability of being identified by terrorists and thieves as an important person, or at least someone who has a lot of money. Exchange your money for local currency as soon as possible. If possible, exchange your money for local currency prior to arrival into the country. A lot of international airports have money currency exchange areas. Okay. Uniforms. So people the military is encouraged to fly in uniforms nowadays, but they're not the only ones who do this. All right. Flying in uniforms will not only identify you as American, but it's also going to identify you as a military service member or an official representative of the U.S. government. If a uniform is required by work, by all means wear it. But when driving out and to and from, wear civilian clothes. If you must wear a uniform while traveling, remove the headgear and wear an overcoat or something to cover it. Now, when I said everybody wears a uniform, so do business people, rich people. If you're wearing a $2,000 suit, you and four or five other people, you're in uniform, right? It's just a way to identify people, remember, by what they see and their belief of importance. You know, you're wearing the Rolex, even if it's a fake one. They don't know that. What they see is somebody that's got a Rolex means you're rich, means you're important. All right, when they're doing selection, you're going to be going what the risk is versus their chances of success. The terrorists and criminals prefer a soft target that involves little risk and a high probability of success. They are unlikely to select a target that involves high risk with little or no chance of success. They don't want to fail. Little risk and high probability of success. That's what they want. All right. In the process of selecting their targets, they evaluate the potential victims in terms of softness versus hardness. The way we conduct ourselves and how stringently we adhere to personal protective or individual protective procedures will determine whether a terrorist or criminal threat classifies us as a hard target or a soft target. So what is a soft target? Usually unarmed, the victim is not armed or simply displays a lack or willingness to use his weapons. There's minimal chance of confrontation with the police. If you confront this guy, the victim's travel patterns or routines do not take him near police or fire stations, hospitals, friendly embassies, or other safe haven locations. The victim's going to be accessible, which means he's easy to get to because he works in an area with minimum security. He travels high-risk areas, slums or barrios by himself, where he does not consider security measures a major concern. He is predictable. The victim is predictable because he follows set routines and patterns and doesn't change anything. And he is unaware. The victim is complacent, has no security consciousness, and does not use any individual or personal protective measures. He has no situational awareness. Now, one of the most important things about this, a soft target, is time and place predictable. If you are predictable, you will become a target eventually. So a hard target. The target is armed with a weapon that is in good working condition and is readily accessible. The target is proficient in the use of the weapon and they will not hesitate to use it. They have a hardened vehicle. The target's vehicle is equipped with armor, bullet-resistant glass, alarms, two-way radio. The person driving the vehicle will use it as a weapon. Hardened residence. The residence has a layered defense. The target's residential security includes armed guards, roving patrols in the neighborhoods, high walls or fences, anti-intrusion devices, lights, and watchdogs. Communication. The target has two-way radio, his cell phone. He's got him in his home and at work. He also keeps one with him at all times. When traveling, he has an escort vehicle. Make sure the escort vehicle accompanies him with a trained driver and crew. The crew should be alert and be quick to react. That alone may deter a terrorist or criminal attack. Heightened awareness. The target continually uses and adjusts his level of his situational awareness and does not become complacent. He shows a constant state of alertness at all times. And he's unpredictable. The target uses different methods to avoid routines and determine his daily events. He can use dice. They can be used to determine routes to be taken, times of departure and return, dining establishments. Being unpredictable can cause a terrorist to perceive that a target as a hard target. Unpredictability is a big thing in staying off the target list. So, do you make it easy for the terrorists? The terrorist will not attack a hard target unless he has specific orders to do so. In most cases, he will simply pick an easier target. Terrorists like soft, easy targets, but you have to have value, unless it's just for money, like a criminal robbing somebody. So, what makes this an easy target? An obvious regime. One way we make it easy for terrorists and criminals is by forming regular routines. These routines allow a terrorist to plan on the target to be at a certain place at a certain time. This reduces their chance of getting caught by reducing their exposure time, which makes them less vulnerable to discovery. It's important to remember that, generally speaking, routines are okay when the threat is low, but when the threat increases, you need to vary your schedule as much as possible. This will help keep the terrorists off balance and will make you a much harder target. All right? Do not be time and place predictable. Routines at home. So picking up the newspaper in the morning, taking the mail out to the mailbox, walking and feeding the dog at certain times each day, warming up the car when it's yard, doing yard work on the weekends at the same time. All these things are routines at your residence that can make you a target. So your routines at work. Same route to and from work every day, every time you go. It doesn't matter time of day or night. So arriving work at the same time, which is probably unavoidable, and leaving at the same time. Going to the same place for lunch every day, holding, formations, doing fire drills, and everybody going to the same place. Uh, Holding weekly or daily meetings in the same room or at the same location. What hours the lunchroom or the food trucks pull up out front, stuff like that. All this stuff can make you time and place predictable. which can make you a target. So civilians' routines at work. So once again, same route to and from work. Doesn't matter time of day or night. Parking in the same place every day. Arriving at work at the same time each day. Using the same entrance when others are available. Food trucks coming outside to sell stuff. Cigarette breaks, smoking areas. Using the same reading room that faces the outside. Lunch at the same place and the same time. You know, if you walk across the street to a restaurant over there everybody likes. Fire drills, assembly areas in the same place, etc. Each work environment is unique in routines that develop to make things easier and more familiar to your employees. You need to avoid anything that makes you time and place predictable. So, common routines, frequenting the same bars and restaurants in your off hours. Americans, when they overseas, like to frequent restaurants, bars, and clubs that serve American style food or that have inexpensive prices. They may also patronize an establishment because that's what other Americans do. They go there. There's a lot of places where people go overseas that they just want to visit and see other Americans, or they just want something familiar with the food or the atmosphere, and it can get you. This is an example. And believe me, this stuff happens just as much now as it did back in '98. So, common routines of people, physical fitness. So, in the military, you're always going to have PT in the mornings, do stuff at night. You're always going to be same route to and from work, 6:30 in formation, blah blah blah. It's a common routine for civilians too. Many civilians have these same routines. They jog, they run, they go to locations to do these activities, such as parks or trailheads. They hit the gym in the morning after work, or they do racquetball or basketball, pickleball with friends at the same place and same time each afternoon or in the evening, or they go out and walk their dogs at night. All of these routines we develop and think nothing of, and they all make us time and place predictable. Traffic accidents. Many people, because human nature, will try to stop and render assistance at a roadside emergencies. Some places, countries, and states, and ever, it's required by law that a passerby stop and render assistance if they see an accident. Any type of roadside assistance, uh, helping someone, changing a tire, jumping someone's car, or even stopping to get animals off the side of the road that have been dumped. These are all things that if they observe you doing it once, they're more than likely going to do it again, and they can plan for that. Now they're on the road, even in a parking garage, helping someone with a dead battery, helping a female with too many things to carry, seeing a stray animal near your car. But during these things can turn bad pretty quickly. So just remember, be aware of what's your surroundings, and if you didn't see the accident take place in front of you, consider bypassing and just calling for help. All right, more common routines, picking up hitchhikers. Remember, anything you observe doing once, the threat will see if you will be doing it again. If so, this makes you predictable and they will use this against you. If you stop and pick up a hitchhiker, they will, try to set up a hitchhiker for you to pick up. If you stop and help stray dogs, they're going to put stray dogs in front of you. All right. Now, people will work for you. If you have gardeners, drivers, maids, cooks, a security detail, or just a bodyguard at home, or cleaning crew, security, etc. If anybody that works for you at home or at your office has a routine, then you have a routine. If people who you depend on, especially for your protection and transportation, follow routines, this makes them and you time and place predictable. By this, I mean they always pick you up at the same time and place at home or work, drop you off at the same place, always park or go to the same place when waiting for you. Workers arrive at the same time, use the same routes to and from your residence, leave at the same time, trip breaks at the same time every day. The importance of this is IEDs can be placed on vehicles that are not protected or actions taken that gives the threat an upper hand, even a criminal threat. So your value as a target victim, once again, remember, it's based upon belief of importance. And how important are you and what publicity the terrorists gain for their cause by doing something to you or your family or your organization or your company, etc. Remember, and it's not how important you know you are, it's how important they think you are. Okay? So, how much terror is going to be generated as a result of their act? Terrorists believe kill 10, scare 10,000. That's what Mao said. So, if they hurt you, maim you, kill you, your family, destroy your company, blow up a bunch of people that you work with at a volleyball game, how much terror are they going to generate? Can they receive a ransom for you? Are you that important that somebody's going to pay money for you? All right. Can they get other concessions? Like if you were taken or something is done, if you're taken hostage, can they get people released for your return? Can they get a safe escort out of the country if all else fails and they can't get anything else? That way they can get out of the area and do it again. How important are you to your organization, the government, this local government, etc.? So whether you become a hard target or a soft target is entirely up to you. You can make it easy for the terrorists, or you become a hard target and make it difficult for them. Try to create an amount of risk and work so high with the probability of success so low that the terrorist or criminal threat will leave you alone and select another target. So, any questions over that section? All right, let's go to the next one. Protecting yourself while traveling. So, most people leave it up to other people to plan their itinerary and stuff like that. So, when planning your routes and your itineraries for travel, you need to consider possible safe areas if you're traveling by vehicle, such as police and fire stations, as well as possible trouble areas, such as radical universities or bad neighborhoods. Analyze areas that are unavoidable. These are called choke points, and locate the closest safe areas to them, which can be police stations, fire stations, hospitals. Believe it or not, banks and jewelry stores usually have armed security in some countries. Plan simple courses of actions that can be implemented quickly in a potential crisis for each of these areas. These plans, along with a higher state of awareness, will, at the trouble spots, may enable you to survive an attack. Limit identifying your plans and routes only to those responsible for your well-being. Allow no one else access for these arrangements. Don't trust anybody, especially when you're overseas. Avoid traveling alone, and whenever possible, travel on busy, well-traveled thoroughfares. Learn key phrases that will enable you to ask for help in the local language. Know also how to use the local telephone system and carry your cell phone with you everywhere so you can call. You want to get a detailed briefing for the cities from your local security officer, the embassy, wherever. And you want to include threats, safe havens, best routes, places to avoid, anything else that could impact your safety. All right. You want to prepare a list of names and phone numbers, or at least have them already pre-done in your cell phone that can be contacted in an emergency to help you. All right. Do not carry. Keep your supervisors informed. Know if you change your travel plans, if you're changing your itinerary, if you're going to do something that you weren't supposed to do, that you weren't doing before, just let them know so they can know where to start looking for you. If your route's deviated or you're not going to that place today, you went somewhere else. All right. Protection while pedestrian. All right. So as a pedestrian, you have to remember a couple things. Remember at all times how vulnerable pedestrians are to assaults. It happens every day. I mean, not too long ago in a major U.S. city, women were getting stabbed by strangers. As with other types of traveling, avoid routine and use more than one route. Never walk alone if at all possible. Okay? So you always want to be alert. Know what's going on around you. Situational awareness. You want to train yourself to walk facing traffic. This way, if the threat tries to attack you, they will have to approach you as you are looking at them, alerting you to the attack, or attack you with traffic passing between you and them. When walking along the sidewalk, stay toward the center so it will be more difficult for someone to push you into traffic. This also gives you a better chance of spotting someone hiding between cars or waiting around the corner in an alley. All right? Maintain a cautious attitude. When you stop, make sure your back is to the wall. When you cross an intersection, cross with groups. Be very alert to approaching vehicles. Apply surveillance detection methods that we talked about previously in potential hostile environments. Learn as much as possible about surveillance detection and apply this knowledge whenever you are in a possible hostile area. Use reflective surfaces such as windows or mirrors to see persons who may be following you. A route that goes progressively from high density to low density area will also aid you in identifying surveillance. You can easily spot a person who moves with you from one high density area into a low density area. Overall, your best defense is to maintain a keen sense of situational awareness. Develop a planned crisis response plan for the route you walk. This plan should include safe areas that you know about, possible hostile areas along your routes of travel. If you have to yell for assistance, consider the New Yorker syndrome. Passerbyers are not likely to stop and help if you cry help. Instead, yell fire or activate a pocket or purse-sized compression air horn or yell rape or something else. All right, that will draw people. So use light and noise to your advantage. Walk in well-lighted areas where there are other pedestrians. You always want to stay with the normal flow of pedestrian traffic. Avoid areas where noise would drown out any cries for assistance. All right. Walk in areas where other pedestrians are present, but avoid crowds of people, which could be a hostile demonstration towards Americans or foreigners. You may have to alter your route or cross over to another street if this occurs, or enter a business or a building. You want to follow the normal flow of pedestrian traffic as much as possible. You want to vary your route and times to travel as much as you can. You want to stay alert to what is happening around you. You want to avoid areas that are hostile. Always walk facing traffic. Maintain a cautious attitude crossing intersections. Stay with the groups. Stop your back against the wall. Know what you're going to do if you have a crisis. All right. Holy crap. So, in a car, first thing, you want to drive an innocuous vehicle. This means a vehicle that blends in with make, style, color. You remember we talked about getting fancy cars. You got enough rental credit, so you want to drive a Porsche. Anything that makes you look rich, makes you look important. We want to avoid that. Important people become targets. All right. When traveling by automobile, make yourself a hard target. 82% of all terrorist attacks occur in and around. Sorry about that. Next step for now. So, first you got to look at your car. Like I said, you want an innocuous vehicle that blends in. So, what do you want in your vehicle? You know, if you drive a vehicle that blends in, it's going to be making it harder to follow. It's going to make it harder for terrorists to find if it doesn't stand out. Avoid any obvious signs of being an American. Jeeps, Cadillacs, pickups. Sanitize your vehicle outside and in. Nothing laying around the floor, nothing, no bumper stickers, none of that stuff. All right. If you have the ability to equip the vehicle, you want to equip the vehicle to get you to a crisis situation. Doesn't have to last forever. It's just got to allow you to get through the attack and to a safe area. So armor. So a fully armored car from a manufacturing firm will cost between $80,000 and $200,000. It is only capable of sustaining an attack from large caliber weapons and heavy weapons for about 30 seconds. However, you can equip your vehicle with 200 pounds of armor for approximately $800 to $1,000. This armor will provide considerable protection against handguns and small explosives. All right. Tires. In the process of upgrading the vehicle, tires are important yet often neglected. When selecting tires, choose a radial tire instead of a bias ply. The choice of steel, fiberglass, or Kevlar will probably be based on what is available rather than what you prefer. Choose a tire that can sustain high temperature and that will maintain excellent traction in the area and climate in which you will be traveling. Tires that are not rated for high temperatures or that are worn may blow out in as little as 3 minutes at speeds of 100 miles an hour or more. On an extremely hot surface, the speeds at which tires will fail will be lower. The systems for rating tire quality uses the letters ABC to indicate temperature and traction of the tire. The only acceptable rating is A. The system for rating the speed of a tire are the letters SHV, which all are acceptable. Other important things to consider are tread life, self-sealing capabilities, and the terrain that we're required to function on. So do a lot of research on your tires. All right. Mirrors. Install an oversized outside mirror on both sides of the vehicle and put little fish eyes in the corner. This will increase your view. Remember, the more you see, the safer you'll be. Radios. Install a two-way radio communication system in the vehicle. Get a CB radio. You know, cell phones are great. Radios are good too, especially if you got someone you can talk to, like you're maintaining contact with the security force somewhere or the police. You know, you want an interior trunk latch on your vehicle. Most come standard now. Check and make sure. If not, you can actually make one. You want to install fire extinguishers in the vehicle, in the trunk and in the main body. Fire extinguishers are for people first, vehicle second. You want to have first aid and a survival kit in the vehicle. All right. You want heavy duty suspension. Remember, you did all these upgrades. You got to have the suspension that'll carry it. Same way you did all these upgrades, you got to make sure you got the horsepower to make the vehicle move. You want it to be able to accelerate out of a crisis. Tinted windows are one of those things, good, bad, you know, they make it difficult for someone on the outside to look on the interior of the vehicle. However, it's also going to make it hard for you to look in when you're performing your car bomb search. All right, alarms. There are many types of alarms on the market that are affordable to everyone. Granted, these devices can be circumvented. However, they are deterrent. In a lot of places, the alarms are to alert you because most people just ignore the damn things now when they go off. You know? Okay. Always keep the gas tank full or at least on half in the event you must evade or run from an attack. You want to control your keys at all times. When you leave your car with the parking attendant or mechanics, leave only your ignition key. Don't leave your house key, office key, safe keys, etc. Always keep your car in good mechanical repair. Make sure you have a car that's going to be easy to get parts and service for. All right. Protection while driving. So, if you have a driver, you got to evaluate him to make sure he has the training needed by sending him, to make sure he's a good driver, knows what he's doing. If not, you can send him to a driving school that'll train him to be a good driver, okay, and a good protective driver. So this is what you're looking for. The driver should always be alert at all times and focus his full attention on the responsibility of operating the vehicle. When a crisis develops, decisions and acts of the driver will influence the lives of the passengers. What your driver does is usually going to determine whether you live or die. That's why I prefer driving myself. All right, the driver should be trained to respond to any situation. His primary responsibility is to drive the vehicle. Until the vehicle is brought to a halt, the driver should not use a gun or radio or any other device. The car, in many cases, can serve as an excellent weapon or tool of escape. Many schools offer classes in defensive and anti-terrorist driving. If these schools are inaccessible, there are excellent books and magazines that provide this instruction. The driver should always maintain a cautious attitude, be careful, as good situation awareness. As soon as the car bomb search has been completed, the driver should start the vehicle. Next, he can adjust the seat and the mirrors. In this way, if a crisis situation happens, he can drive off quickly. While driving, the driver should visualize or look 2 or 3 blocks ahead. He should constantly think what if during the entire drive along the route. If chauffeurs are to be used, check out prospective drivers with local security companies, the embassy, law enforcement. There are 4 basic rules when it comes to dealing with chauffeurs. Chauffeurs must remain with the vehicle. If the chauffeur is absent, do not go near the vehicle. Do not enter the vehicle. There must be a prearranged signal between you and the chauffeur that it's safe for you to come out and enter the vehicle. All right. Never give your itinerary to the driver. Be particularly cautious about giving out your schedule. Instead, give the driver the general idea of when to show up at your home. Even then, you don't have to leave and don't have to come out when you tell him. Inform the driver of your destination after he starts the car, etc. You never know what the driver's true intentions are if you don't know them well. All right. If a substitute driver appears, check him out. Call the company, ask about it. Make sure that he is who he says he is. Get a name, get a description, etc. Determine the driver's capabilities in relationship to your own. During a crisis situation, the driver is he going to be more concerned with saving his life or your life? Determine whether your driving capabilities are as good as your chauffeurs or drivers. If they are, dismiss them and take the responsibility of your life into your own hands. Chauffeurs and drivers have failed in their duties, allowing their principals to be killed or captured on several occasions. So your behavior. As a passenger in a vehicle, stay mentally alert at all times. This is not the time to review reports or to eat your breakfast. A small mirror attached to the passenger visor can help you observe the rear, since the driver will be occupied with operating the vehicle. The extra set of eyes can spot any unusual activity. Remember, the more you see, the safer you will be. Constantly vary your routes and routines. Have at least 3 different routes to and from work and home. Do not set up a routine of always taking the same route every day. Do not be time and place predictable. Drive with the doors locked and the windows rolled up. Do not allow someone to pull you from an armored vehicle and shoot you because the door is locked. All right. Always fasten your seatbelt, not only for safety reasons, but in the case you have to outrun another vehicle or ram or a roadblock, it's going to keep your butt in the seat. All right. First thing you do when you get into a car is you lock the doors. Then you start the car, then you put your seatbelt on. When arriving, place your car in park. Placing your car in park sometimes automatically unlocks the doors. Disable this and relock the doors immediately. All right, car swapping. Consider swapping cars with friends or co-workers to confuse terrorists or other threats. Be careful that you do not borrow an easy target's car and become the wrong victim. All right. Consider carpooling. Carpools offer safety in numbers and confuse the terrorists as to what car you're using. However, should the terrorists carry out an attack, carpools are often a larger and possibly more valuable target. It may also be difficult to vary the routines of persons dependent on one vehicle for transportation. So always keep your vehicle doors locked. First thing you do when getting in a vehicle is lock the doors, then start the vehicle, then put the seatbelt on. I'm saying this again because you need to hear it again. Then do the other things you need to do before leaving. Why? Well, you lock the doors. This means an attacker will have to break the window now to get to you. With the seatbelt on, they will not be able to pull you through the window or out of the car easily if they get the door open. With the car running, all you have to do is put the car in gear and stomp on the gas, forward or back. It doesn't matter as long as the car is moving. This will throw the attackers off and it will let you escape. So, minor traffic accidents. If you're involved in a minor traffic accident, quickly determine whether or not it is a ruse to stop your vehicle. Terrorist groups and criminals sometimes use this minor traffic accidents as ploys to stop vehicles. If you suspect a ploy, leave the scene of the accident, drive directly to the embassy, to your company, to local law enforcement. Report the accident and your involvement to local police as soon as possible. I would also suggest getting dash cams for your vehicles. They are going to be a great help. So, it's a police halt. You do not get out of your car. Keep your engine running and roll down the window low enough to allow voice communication and the passing of the documents. Stay alert for unusual action. Should the situation warrant a sudden exit, proceed to the embassy or a business or local police department immediately and report it. All right, roadblocks. Use extreme care when approaching roadblocks. If the roadblock is a ploy, the terrorists will have a great advantage. As quickly as possible, determine whether the roadblock is official by studying the uniforms of the police or the military. Their uniforms should match and their equipment should be alike. Many times terrorists steal their uniforms and some of the parts will be different. Note the types of vehicles being used. If they are not official vehicles, the chance of the roadblock being a ruse is great. You must make this determination quickly so as to keep your vehicle as far out of any kill zone as possible. At no time should you allow yourself to be boxed in without the possibility of escape. Okay. So you want to drive in the far left lane when feasible so that your vehicle cannot be forced to the curb. Another advantage of driving in the left lane is that the number of weapons a passing car can bring to bear on your vehicle will be reduced. At traffic lights or stop signs, stay in a lane that will allow you maneuverability out of a crisis situation. Allow at least 8 to 10 feet between your vehicle and the one in front of you. The rule of thumb is 1 foot of ground between the rear tire of the vehicle in front of you and the top of your hood as you are looking over your steering wheel. All right, this will make you safer. Molotov cocktails. Watch for persons carrying packages or bottles that might be thrown at your vehicle. To lessen the damage caused by a Molotov cocktail, keep your windows closed at all times. Bottles will often bounce off a vehicle without breaking. If your vehicle is hit by a firebomb that does not disable it or penetrate its interior, keep the vehicle moving and allow the flames to burn out. Although the exterior paint on the car might be damaged, the temperature inside the car will rise no more than 10 degrees and the flames will only last about 10 to 15 seconds. And once the paint's burned off and the liquid's burned off, it's gone. If your vehicle is disabled and cannot be moved, wait 8 to 10 seconds for the flames to subside before exiting. Keep a fire extinguisher inside your car for interior fires. If possible, remain inside your vehicle where you will be safer. All right. Roadside emergencies. Treat roadside emergencies as you would minor traffic accidents. Terrorists have used such ploys before and they will continue to use them in the future. Criminals do it too. It's an easy way to kidnap people. Keep your eyes and ears open. Don't stop. Employ any other techniques that might prevent a terrorist from choosing you as a target and successfully carrying out an attack against you. Consider using a two-way radio or car phone. Once again, everybody talks about cell phones are the thing now. Law enforcement still uses CBs or radios, so when you have one in your car, you could be mistaken for law enforcement and people will leave you alone. All right. So, protection while flying. So, if you're a service member and a member of the government, flying military aircraft whenever possible, they're just as comfortable now in a lot of cases as other stuff. All right. Do not fly routes with stops in high-risk areas. You can tell this depending on the country you're going to and what the threat is. Just check your itinerary, see where it's going. Purchase tickets at a travel agency. They usually have more options than you can see online. Try to do it yourself. I know a lot of people like going online and using their apps and other stuff. Trust me, if you go to a travel agency, they can see things on there that you can't see, and they usually have better options for getting your tickets. Just a thought. Request seats in the gray area. All right. So the gray area, that's the inner aisles of the plane. We'll talk about that some more, but that's where you want to be. And that's the area that's going to make it more difficult for somebody to use you as an example. All right. Avoid unsecure areas of the airport. Get through security as quickly as possible. You want to get to the ticket counter, get checked in, get done, get gone, get back to the secure area. There are still attacks that take place in airports. Avoid long layovers if you can't. If you can. If you can't, do not leave the airport. Usually there's first class and business clubs that you can purchase one-time memberships to get into, and they're pretty decent. All right. Blend in, keep a low profile. We've talked about it. You don't want to stand out. So the gray area of the aircraft we talked about. It's sit in the middle rear portion of the airplane. And this is because it's going to keep you safer. It's going to keep you farther away from any threat that happens on the flight. All right. The first indication of a skyjacking is usually 15 to 60 minutes into the flight, because that's when you have the most fuel and you still have the ability to change direction. You want to keep your seatbelt fastened so they can't come around and start yanking people out of their seats. You want to hide any incriminating document. Well, not incriminating, but anything that will identify you as someone important or a member of the military or the U.S. government. Only show civilian identification to anybody who asks for it when something happens. So when I say get back to the secure area as quickly as possible. Rome Airport Massacre, 1985. 3 members of the PFLP gunned down people at the El Al ticket counter and cafe. They killed 7 Americans. They were killed by El Al security and the Italian police, and one was wounded. So the Lode Airport Massacre, airport 1972. They gunned down 100 people. They killed 26, most of them Americans. Killed themselves and each other. 1 terrorist was captured. So Vienna, suicide attack, carried out at the same time as the Rome. Paris was gunned down by alert police. These areas are still vulnerable today, and most people don't realize it. They don't really pay attention to the news. And it's not only overseas that this stuff happens. Dallas Love Field Airport, 2022. Fort Lauderdale, 2017. 2021, Atlanta. 2023, Philadelphia. Vancouver. LAX. Just be aware, get back past security as quickly as possible. Don't loiter out front. So prior to boarding, watch for suspicious and unusual activity. You want to stay alert, situational awareness, see what's going on around you, report anything you think is unsafe or unusual to security or airline employees that can be checked out. All right. Careful what you say to other passengers. You don't know who those people are, and you don't want them fingering you as an important person later on if an incident does happen, or they could be part of the threat itself. Just talk generic, talk down about yourself. Just be a boring person. If you're in the military, I would suggest not flying in uniform. If you're working in the civilian world, I would also suggest not flying in your business uniform, which is usually suits and ties. Play down your importance, play down your importance as much as possible. Remember, it's not about what you know, it's about what other people perceive. All right, blend in, keep a low profile as much as possible. You just want to be innocuous, and you don't want to be fingered out. You don't want to be that nail sticking up that everybody notices. All right, once in the air. First indication of the skyjacking, like I said, 15 to 60 minutes out. Usually the fasten seatbelt light comes on. You want to hide all documents that can identify you as someone important when it happens. Put them in the barf bag, put them in the seat thing in front of you, try to slide them underneath your seat into the area where the life vest is kept, etc. Or don't travel with them at all. Put them in your checked luggage so you don't have them on you. And just keep a generic civilian ID. Right. Always show civilian generic identification, no matter what you're doing. All right. You want to sanitize yourself. Usually, if something's happening, you're going to have 10 seconds to clear your wallet and body if you haven't already done it. Like I said, dump your military affiliation from your wallet. Keep the wallet because not having one would be unusual. Service members on TWA Flight 847, when it was hijacked, used the air sickness bag and act like they threw up in it so it wouldn't be checked. As a civilian, you want to get rid of anything that will identify you as an important person. Right? On hijacking, belt up, sanitize, prep for decompression. Do not get caught recording or talking on the phone. It's going to piss them off. All right, and keep the low profile. If you're asked to identify yourself, use a tourist passport or an international driver's license. Don't show them anything else. Right? Delay any positive identification of military or government affiliation. If confronted with the facts, do not lie. They probably were looking for you or already know about you. Discard or hide any identification cards that are not just generic civilian cards. Beware of contradicting or compromising items you could have on your body or person, such as a government passport or things like that. Keep calm. Always state your innocence. Try not to antagonize anybody. So if the terrorist doesn't know something, do not volunteer information or clarify information. Answer direct questions directly. Keep it simple. Do not give them anything they already don't know. And do not give them anything they don't know about other people. Okay? Do not help the threat. Once you're in the air, do not take on a threatening image. It's not going to help anything. Do not say or do anything that's going to cause issues. Do not try to rally the troops. Do not try to argue with them. Just remain innocuous. If you have firearms, do not pull one out. It should have been put in your check luggage or your carry-on. If there are air marshals on the flight and you don't know who they are, they certainly don't know who you are. And two people with firearms that don't know each other are going to cause issues. And it's very unlikely you're going to win a firefight at 20,000 feet. Keep that low profile, right? You don't want to be targeted or picked out for anything. Your attitude toward the terrorists. Do not give the terrorists hard looks. Do not argue. Do not attempt to talk first or to talk over them. Do not make obscene gestures behind their backs because you could be seen. Terrorists may simply kill you or kill someone else as an example if you're doing these types of things. Don't antagonize anybody. So firearms, again, if you're authorized to carry a firearm on an aircraft, on the ground, assess the chances of success. Use your best judgment. Ensure the aircraft is not moving. Don't get shot by the air marshal. All right? While airborne, put it in your check bag or hide your weapon in holster. Hide badge and any identification if you're law enforcement. Remember, you're unlikely to win a gunfight at 30,000 feet. Airplane hijacking things to consider. Is there an air marshal on the aircraft? Are they heavily armed? How are they armed? Are the hijackers monitoring the activities of the passenger? Are the pilots left in control of the plane? What is the destination? Do they say? Do the hijackers demand ID from everyone? Is someone in a position to resist the hijackers? Are passengers able to place calls without being caught? Passengers singled out based on nationality or affiliation or religion? Remain calm, comply with demands, continuously evaluate the situation. Your emergency plan of action. As soon as you are hijacked, assess cover and concealment, watch emergency exits, develop the EPA for situations at altitude and on the ground. Remember, after 9/11, there have been many changes made to aircraft to prevent this from happening again. Cockpits are secured and cannot be broken into. Pilots are told to land immediately. They will. There will be air marshals on board and they are armed. Pilots are armed in many cases and have firearms in the cockpit. Other things have been done that are not disclosed to the public for security and safety reasons. As long as the pilot remains in control of the aircraft, do nothing to endanger yourself or others. Anything you do could interfere with the ongoing plan or guidance and cause unforeseen problems that can hurt the attempts being made by law enforcement or the aircrew. You do not know what's going on. Do not put yourself in the middle of something that you don't know what's going on. As long as the pilots are in control of the cockpit, let them do what they need to do. Continually evaluate the situation. Only act if your life is threatened and you can. So are there any questions over that? So the last part, especially the skyjacking, is controversial. I've had students argue the hell out of this in various classes. 90% of the time, you are only going to interfere with any ongoing guidance or operations the pilots and the air marshals have. So it's best just to remain silent and stay in your seat unless you absolutely need to protect yourself or someone else from what's going on. All right, just remember that. So the rescue attempt. During a skyjacking, the plane is going to have to land somewhere. At this time, the authorities may initiate a rescue attempt, and especially they will do this if people have been killed or hurt. Statistically, rescue attempts are the most dangerous time for passengers. At the first indication of a rescue attempt, use all available cover around you. If you are in your seat, assume the crash position, arms into your sides, head on your knees. With these exceptions, pick up your feet so that no bullets or fragments will strike your legs and feet, and keep your eyes open on the closest terrorist. In the event that he decides to kill you or start shooting, if this happens, your choices are limited, but at the very least, you should try to find more cover, or at least close with him and interfere with him. If you are not in your seat, find cover that is close by and that does not require much movement to reach it, and stay down in the smallest possible form you can get. Avoid any sudden movements. Movement attracts attention from terrorists as well as from rescue forces. Under no circumstances should you attempt to help unless specifically asked to do so by the rescue force. The noise and confusion will make it difficult for the rescuers to determine whether you are a friend or foe. Generally, anyone making a violent gesture, throwing arms into the air, or trying to grab the rescuer, or carrying a gun will probably be shot or forcibly dealt with. Listen closely for commands from the rescuers. These commands may be in a language that you do not understand, so pay strict attention to any gestures. Expect to be handled roughly at first. Be prepared to be separated from your family while you and they are searched. Once on the ground, move away from the aircraft, either from the tail section preferably or from the nose section, in such a manner that the terrorists will have little chance of acquiring a clear shot from the plane to you. Shout, "Don't shoot, I'm a passenger." You do not want to be mistaken for an escaping terrorist. Raise your hands in the air and comply with everything people say to do. If for some reason the aircraft catches fire during the rescue operation, which has happened before, or if the rescue forces are unusually slow, allowing the terrorists time to kill passengers, which has happened before, you must depart the plane or else risk being killed. Initiate your pre-planned escape to the nearest exit. This can be done faster and easier if you have rehearsed how to operate the exit mechanism in your mind many times over, and move carefully to the ground. Remember, once you're off, start running and yell, "I'm a passenger, don't shoot," and do everything anybody tells you to do once you're on the ground and away from the airplane. So upon release or rescue, it's important that you will cooperate with the authorities, especially if you're overseas. Do not give them a reason to detain you further. Your cooperation will greatly expedite your release and assist law enforcement in their investigations into what happened. So brief your dependents and coworkers. Do not talk to the media. If it goes on for several hours and you're identified as being on there, do not talk to the media. You do not want somebody getting on there and saying, "Oh yeah, I know Bob. He's a very important person," and you've just been screwed by your friends or family. Do not say anything. There's no reason to. Just do not talk to the media. So, hotel security. We're going to talk about that next. Whatever you can, if you're in the military or you work for the government, use any facilities on base or at the embassy. All right. So, things to consider about your hotel. If on-base facilities are not available, you want to choose a hotel that employs security measures. Presence of guards, the use of cameras to monitor hallways and elevators, visitor sign-in rosters, all are signs of security-conscious establishment. Remember that in some countries, every time an American arrives in country, the embassy staff may house them in the same hotel that they have used for years because they have an agreement with them. You can choose a different hotel. Just remember, get one that has security. All right. If your hotel room has already been reserved prior to you checking in, request another room, as personnel other than hotel staff might know which rooms are for incoming Americans. If possible, make 2 or more reservations at local hotels. Trust me, it's no big deal to say you want to see the room and then say, yeah, you don't like it, and you ask if you can have another. Just be aware that's an option. For extended stays, change rooms and floors occasionally so that the effort to conduct surveillance or other operations against you will require more time and effort, which will make you a harder target. Okay. Make sure when you're checking in, your floor selection, avoid street level rooms because they are easily accessible to illegal entry, bomb attacks, drive-by shootings, etc. However, do not accept a room above the 7th floor. In many countries, the firefighting teams and firefighting ladders do not extend above the 7th floor. So from the 2nd to the 7th floor, I prefer the 3rd floor. Just be aware you can do your own room selection. All right. Paging. It still happens even though there are cell phones. So if you are paged over the hotel's public address system, do not respond. If you are expecting a visitor, enter the hotel lobby without identifying yourself to the desk clerk and look for your party. You may also telephone the front desk and inquire about the paging. But usually if somebody's paging you, it's because they do not know what you look like and do not know who you are. Otherwise, they will just come and find you. All right? Keep your room key with you at all times. Do not disclose your room number indiscriminately. Be careful when you're having stuff billed to your room, because that's telling everybody from the wait staff to the kitchen staff what your room number is. All right. When entering and exiting rooms, hotels, lobbies, be alert for anyone who's loitering or carrying objects that could conceal weapons. Avoid loiterers in lobbies or public areas such as restrooms. Terrorists favor these locations for placing bombs. So, do not hang out in the hotel lobby. Do not hang out in insecure areas where anybody can walk in off the street. Just be aware. All right. All right. If possible, change your routine and use different hotel entrances, elevators, stairwells, entrances, exits, garage, etc. Remember, time and place predictable makes you an easy target, and we do not want to be a victim because we were time and place predictable. Vary when you're using taxi stands, Uber, Lyft, ride pickup, drop off areas. In many places, even in the United States, rideshare can't use the same areas as taxi stands because it goes against union rules or something. So just be aware of where you're going, what you're doing. Just know, like I said, be situationally aware. All right. Hotel security. Emergency exits plans and equipment. Make sure you know how to get out of the room, how to get downstairs, what equipment's available, fire extinguisher, hose, etc. Keep your room neat and orderly. Close the drapes. Keep the lights on if you can. In many places, you have to have your room key in a slot for the lights to function. Get 2 keys so you can do this. That way, someone outside won't know if you are in or out of your room because the lights are on. Secure your doors and windows. There are portable security windows available. Most windows are already secure. Check them, make sure. Always lock your door when you come in. Always put the door stop out. Inspect all possible hiding areas in a room once you enter it. Don't admit any strangers to your room for any reason. There's probably no reason for it. You should be meeting people in the lobby. Get to know the security guards and make sure you know their routines. Yeah. Just make sure you familiarize yourself with the uniforms, equipment, and the security guards, so you know if somebody's out of place. You can always ask about it. Also, ask the desk about how they hire them, etc. If you're going to be there for a while. Firefights, gunfights. Should there be a firefight between security forces and terrorists, avoid the hallways and balconies. Do not attempt to assist the security forces if you are armed. Not only will you have broken the golden rule of out of sight, out of mind, but if you have a gun, you will become a hostile target to both terrorists and the security forces because they have no idea who the hell you are. Remain in your room and be prepared for the fight to come to you. Always keep an escape route open. All right? If you must use a taxi, do not take the first one in line. Be aware of the danger involved when calling a taxi. If terrorists intercept your call or the taxi company's working with them, they may send a driver to your pickup just because they know that they're going to go get an American. Criminals can do this too. This is the same with rideshare services. Just be aware of what you're getting into. The good thing about taxi stands is most of the time it's in the front of the hotel where you have more visibility in their security. A lot of places, like we discussed before, rideshare drivers have to pick up and drop off in areas such as the parking garage, which has less security and less visibility. So just be aware sometimes a little more money, be safe and secure is better than going the cheap route. So securing hotel doors. So you have locks and you have uh, locks for hotel security doors. So the best way to secure these is when you travel, is to hang a coat jacket on the door block after the door is locked and then tuck it into the door handle. This can prevent threat actors from undoing the latch by opening the door a little and sliding something in, or using a tool that goes under the door to try to open the door by pulling the handle down. Laying your jacket over it will prevent this. Okay? It's just a simple, easy way to secure your hotel door. So, any questions over hotel security? If you do, hit me up with them, and we're going to go on to residential security. So, site selection. Use a security checklist to select the residential site. The checklist can be obtained from the security officer at the embassy. You can get them online. Your company probably has security services there that's going to be able to direct you to a residential area. If you cannot obtain a security checklist, then write your own using common sense deterrents for criminals. By using a checklist, you are less likely to miss an important weakness or through an oversight or just not knowing. When choosing or strengthening your residence, look for it from the criminals or the terrorist's original viewpoint. If you were locked out, how would you get in? How long would it take? How easy would it be? Statistically, criminals always use the easiest, quickest entry points. If possible, you want to compare all options before deciding on your new home. An individual family home may be the least desirable since it will require a higher degree of security to make it a safe home, thereby giving you a higher profile. Living in an area where there are other Americans or friendly foreign nationals clustered together might provide a higher degree of safety and peace of mind without causing a great deal of attention to be focused on you. Apartments offer the benefit of close neighbors and limited entries and exits, but they also offer semi-public areas to the building, such as access to the lobby and laundry room and other areas. So avoid homes that have limited routes of ingress and egress or that are on dead-end streets. Select a home that has several roads that lead to it. If terrorists attempt to hit you at home or near your home, you will not be blocked in. Check your prospective landlord with the embassy and your local company or security agency. Law enforcement, you do not want to rent for someone who has ties to terrorists or who is dangerously sympathetic to their cause. Likewise, you will want to collect information on your neighbors if possible before you move. So residential protection, you got to examine the neighborhood you're going to move to. All right. So how reliable are the police and rescue systems? How far are these facilities from your home? This in itself is a double-edged sword. On the one hand, you choose close proximity to these facilities may possibly cause the terrorists or criminals to fear a quick response, which may lead them to choose someone else. On the other hand, the police themselves may be intended targets and your home may be dangerous close to the actual targets, police or the military. All right. Are there late night establishments in the area? In the event of an attack on your home, could you gather your family and proceed to a late night establishment in a safe area? The possibility of bad media exposure as a result of public killing or injury to indigenous persons may deter terrorists or criminals if you're in these areas. What is the attitude of the entire neighborhood toward the terrorist movement toward the United States? What's the graffiti say if there's a bunch of it? Is there high criminal activity, etc.? Is there anything else in the neighborhood that may affect the safety of your home or your family? When you do select a place, remember the part of the physical security of your residence is to information proof your home against hostile persons, ability to conduct surveillance of you and your family. The less they can find out about you and your routines, the harder it will be for them to plan. So they will look for those softer, easier targets. Attacks take place with some type of surveillance being the first phase. This is a thing for all attacks, criminal or terrorist, except when it's a target of opportunity, right? Establish the physical security at the residence. A layered defense is recommended for the physical security of your residence. Concentric circles around your house represent different layers of barriers or defenses that the terrorists may have to get through to conduct an attack against you. It is important to understand that there are very few impregnable security systems. These layers will provide time and warning when an attack is underway, and more important, they may motivate the terrorists to attack a less security conscious target or threat. So the layer defense is going to give you detection and delay, which gives you time to get to your safe room, notify security forces, get help, or to leave the area, hopefully without being detected. All right. You want to information proof your home from outside observation, mailboxes, telephone, trash cover. You want to make sure that they get as little information as possible about you from your house. You want to make sure that your mailbox is inside the fence so you don't have to exit the property to get to it. You want to make sure the telephone junction box for your residence is inside the fence to prevent tampering, and that the trash stays in the fence line and protected until it is picked up. Remember, the more information the more information they can find out about you, the easier it is to find a pattern they can exploit or some other information they can use against you. So, the outer layer. The outer layer should consist of the following: high walls and fences. Perimeter walls and fences will limit the view of the residence and hopefully prevent terrorists and criminals from surveilling your home activities. The walls and fences may also deter terrorists from performing a drive-by attack. Police and security forces, however, might be unaware of a crisis situation if they do not have a clear view of your residential site. Consider placing barbed wire or broken glass on top of your walls or fences, if the local laws allow, to deter intruders. Items such as tree branches, poles, and trash cans should be arranged on the premise or removed from the premise. They cannot be used as a tool to gain access, helping them climb over the wall. Gates should be sturdy and in good repair and locked when not in use. There should be more than one gate to offer alternative ways out of the compound if you need to leave. Trees and shrubs. Tall trees and shrubs serve as a screen to anyone trying to observe the grounds or the entry points of your residence. Inside the perimeter, shrubbery near the home could conceal intruders, should be trimmed or removed. Also, trim or remove any shrubbery outside the perimeter near the walls and fences and the entrances and exits. Dogs. It does not matter whether the dog in the outer layer is big or small as long as it is loud. Although a trained guard dog might cause fear in many intruders, the animal will pose little or no threat to a determined professional. We use the dogs primarily as an alarm system. They are an audio and visual deterrent. So, warning signs. Warning signs on your fence and house advertising the presence of a dog or alarm system may cause the terrorist to choose another target. You will also have to find out the local requirements for these signs and post them in the local language and make sure they see the dogs and hear the dogs. And if you have an alarm, make sure it goes off every once in a while so they know there's an alarm. Anything you can do to make yourself that harder target. So, visible security measures. Remember, we want visible deterrence. We're talking about cameras. Outside security cameras go along with signs will be a further deterrent. You can even purchase fake cameras from Radio Shack or other locations that rotate and have lights that run off of batteries. Remember, they have no way of knowing if the camera is working or if it's not working, and we'll have to assume that they do because they only know what they can see. Exterior lighting needs to be continuous lighting flooding a given area during the hours of darkness. It is a visible security measure, so you want to use what they call glare protection, where lamps or lights are positioned slightly inside a security area and projected outward. This makes it difficult for an intruder to see into the secure area at night. Controlled lighting, the light width can be controlled so areas outside the secure area are not illuminated. A drawback with controlled lighting is that they may silhouette the guard force. This type of lighting is normally mounted on 30-foot poles, shines down, and has overlapping lighting coverage. You can also get motion lights or lights with photoelectric cells that come on at dusk and dawn. Any type of outside lighting will be a major deterrent. A combination of low-level lighting provides some illumination along with motion detection lighting is usually best. This will highlight to your security when a motion light goes off there is movement in that area. They now have motion lights that are on a low level and get brighter when motion is detected. You can also buy motion lights that will alarm inside when they are triggered. So, night watchmen, roving patrols, conduct security checks on any guards before hiring them, or guard service country, host countries are usually helpful in arranging for private guards. Remember, if you have private guards, though, it's going to highlight you as an important person. Although these guards are often not competent by U.S. standards, their presence is a deterrent to some degree. However, they should not become the primary means of defense while other measures are ignored. If guards are employed, avoid 12-hour shifts. Experience has shown that tours in excess of 8 hours degrade effectiveness. This is especially true when guards are moonlighting and they have other jobs and they just do this on the side. Guards must be briefed and trained to react to emergencies. Make sure that they have successfully completed a protection training program, especially armed guards, before allowing them to work. They should attend refresher trainings as well. If the guards are armed, ensure that their strict compliance with local laws is met because you're responsible if something goes bad. Guards must be trained in the use of their assigned weapons and in weapon safety. The guards should be warned against flashing weapons in an unprofessional manner. Roving patrols should also be monitored and checked to ensure training response times are at different hours. Ensure what their training and response times are during different hours of the day or night to ensure roving patrols are not being stuck in established patterns and routines. That even confused me. So roving patrols, you want to check them to see what their response times are back to the house in case something happens. But you also want to make sure that they're not on a routine, that they're not predictable. Because if they do their patrols at the same time every night, that can be countered and they're nothing. Right? The local threat will know about local guard companies, security officers, and off-duty law enforcement. Ensure you get a company or people with a good reputation and a good history. So, layered defense. So for your openings, you want to make sure you got good doors and locks. Consider the strength of each door and each window when it is open and when it is closed. A steel door with no windows is an excellent choice. Changing existing locks in your new residence unless you can positively determine that you have the only keys available. How strong is the lock or latch? At a minimum, each entry door should have one deadbolt lock with at least a 1-inch throw into the door jamb. Each door should also have a push-button lock system on the doorknob, allowing you to activate the lock quickly in an emergency should occur. Windows should be properly secured since they are likely to be the weakest link in your home security. Mylar film coating should be considered on all window surfaces to help glass protection and breaking. Lastly, you need to evaluate the effort required to force entry. Consider the following. All entrance doors should be equipped with heavy-duty hinges. The hinge pin must be protected from the outside or mounted so it is inside and cannot be cut. Doors and window frames should be as strong as possible. A steel door with a strong lock will offer no protection if terrorists are able to kick the door down because of a weak frame. When selecting the mounting hardware for doors and windows, locks and hinges, choose the strongest material available. Screws for locks and hinges should enter at least 1 inch into the frame. Window air conditioners should be reinforced so they cannot be removed, thus allowing someone to gain entry through the opening. If your primary door for that entrance has glass in it, replace the glass with reinforced glass or plexiglass, making it harder to break or bypass. You can also place any bars over glass parts of doors and windows for added protection. Mounting hardware is important. Screws that come with doors and windows are designed to mount into the frame that comes with the door or window. Many times the screws will not even reach to or through the door framing used to mount the door, and the frames are attached and separate from that hardware. Okay, mounting hardware is important. The screws that come with the doors and the windows are designed to mount it in the frame. That white thing is the frame that comes with the doors that you buy at the store. Many times the screws not even reach or through the door framing used to mount the door into the surrounding frames attached that is separate. All right. Mounting hardware is okay. Hinges and doors are usually pre-mounted when they buy a door to mount in your house or apartment. Screws do not go past the white frame for the hinges or for the rest of the door hardware. The entire door frame is mounted to the wood surrounding the door entrance. It is quick, efficient, and not very secure. Replacing those mounting screws with 3-inch screws to ensure the hinges are attached to the stronger supporting infrastructure, creating a more secure entryway. Everyone, when constructing a house or putting new doors and windows, use the screw that comes with the kit. Smallest screw up there. That's it. It's the top one. All right. These kits are stock, so the hardware mounts to the door frame are not, they just took to the white frame. All right, and not any of the surrounding wood framing, which would give it greater support and security. This includes apartments and hotel room door frames and mounting hardware. It does not take a lot of effort to change these screws and provide better security at these entrances. So that top screws is what usually mounts the hinges and the doorknob and the panels and all that stuff to the door. So the bottom one is a screw that you can get, and the bottom one is a 3-inch screw. Notice how the 3-inch screw goes through the framing into 2 2x4s. That's going to make that mounting hardware much more harder to defeat, and it's going to be more secure. This is just another example of the different screws. You want screws that are going to pass through the frame into the surrounding infrastructure, wooden infrastructure. It's going to give it much more support to make it much more difficult to bypass. There's other things to know. All right, most interior doors are hollow wood and can be easily breached. Consider changing all your interior doors to solid doors. Just because it opens and closes does not mean it's mounted right. All right, you can add things to the doors and the door frames to make them stronger. If you look at these pictures, look at the one where the handle and the deadbolt aren't even touching the frame. The one in the lower right, they use nails, which won't hold that door throw in place. It gives no support at all. It's loose. Lower left, those are just more secure locks that support the surrounding infrastructure. Or you can use bars and grills. When installing bars and grills, ensure the mounting hardware is not easily accessible from the outside, right? Make sure they can be opened during emergencies, and there are so many different types to do it. Just make sure doors gives it more security. Layer defense inner. Drapes and blinds. Drapes and blinds will not only limit visibility into your home, they will also offer protection from fragmentation during an explosion. The heavier the blinds, the more protection they give. Some type of fire retardant drapes will also add more protection. Lighting. Lighting is one of the most economical and most effective deterrents to entry. The use of lighting cannot be overemphasized. Security lighting should be designed to expose low contrast targets that may be visible for only a few seconds. Dark backgrounds require more light than lighter backgrounds. The importance of entrances, garage doors, and exposed solid walls will determine the required lighting levels. Lighting should be installed so that the loss of one lamp would not leave the area totally dark. Again, you can consider the use of motion lights along with low-level lighting. This will highlight areas with movement. All right, shutters. You can get shutters for your windows that will give you much more protection than just open. And the shutters can either be on the inside or the outside. All right, alarms. An alarm system should be considered for doors and windows and other possible entry points to the house. An effective security system allows ingress and egress to all primary entrances through the use of timing devices. Alarms should be equipped with an emergency panic button. All external horns, sirens, and bells must be loud enough to alert neighbors and other people. Mount a bright flashing light that can be easily observed by emergency personnel so your house can be located in the event they are dispatched. In a cluster living environment, the alarm's noise might be difficult to pinpoint, thus the light on the roof. Inside the residence, there should be audio-visual indicators to awaken or notify the residents. The exception is the duress alarm system, which should be connected to a police station or private security station. If using an alarm system that is monitored, ensure that it is monitored locally. To ensure against tampering or loss of power, you need to check the alarm system periodically. Batteries will provide an electrical source in the event of power failure. So, dogs. Again, the presence of a dog is to warn intruders. And serve as an alarm for the residents. You know, it's an audio deterrent. They usually don't know the size of the dogs. Dogs are good to have as part of your security system. All right, closed circuit television. If it is available, by all means use it. If not, considering using dummy cameras on the inside is a deterrent also. You put plenty of signage up saying you're monitored, you have cameras, you're being watched, etc. Optical viewers and intercoms. Using optical viewers and intercoms will allow you to identify who is outside your door without exposing you directly to the person. Wide-angle optical viewers, peepholes are preferred. A lot of these are in hotels. However, exercise care when using an optical viewer. When your eye is placed close to the viewer, the light behind is blocked, and the attacker may suspect that you are now in front of the door. At this point, they can shoot through the door or detonate an explosive, killing or injuring you. Instead of standing in front of the door, approach the door from the side, raise a book in front of the viewer, and ask who is at the door. Exercise the same precaution with an intercom system. Run the intercom wire so that the speaker boxes are placed on the right or left side of the door. If the terrorist shoots through the intercom box on his side of the doorway, he won't hit you. All right, so you want to offset him. Ring doorbell cameras are real prevalent nowadays. I have one. They're good to use, but people place things over them. People spray paint them. So it's always good to have a peephole or an optical viewer. Okay. E&E routes. You want to establish primary and alternate routes out of your residence leading to a rally point where you and your family members and staff can get in the safe area away from any attack on the house. Rehearse going through your E&E routes during both daytime and nighttime. So plan secure ways to exit from the second and higher floors. Portable ladders and ropes are useful, and you need to make sure all family members and staff rehearse using them. Rehearse actions to take once you reach the rally point. So safe havens. In the event of any attack, go to a safe haven where you can wait until reinforcements arrive. Safe havens should be established on every floor if possible, and it should not be easily accessible from the outside. Safe havens should have more than one entrance and exit, and the opening should be strong and have sturdy locking systems. Armor and sandbags are necessary in the event of a siege, or you can use Kevlar blast blankets. They provide you protection too. Stock the room with emergency items such as water, food, flashlights, candles, blankets, first aid supplies, required medicines, weapons, and ammunition. You should also have a communication system and be able to contact security forces and activate any exterior alarms from inside this room. The event of a fire is great during the attack, so make sure you have fire extinguishers, ventilation, and smoke hoods, and that they're in place. Safe havens or safe rooms are a temporary protection. They're there to keep you safe until a response unit, law enforcement, or other organizations can get to you and end this issue. If no one is coming to retrieve you or end the situation, then a safe room or a safe haven could turn into a trap and possibly lead to your death. Remember Benghazi. So layer defense communications. So each phone should have telephone numbers of police, fire department, rescue services. This should also be in your cell phone. It's already pre-programmed. Learn key phrases in the language of the host country or wherever you're at. Recognize that your phone could possibly be tapped by terrorists. Somebody could be listening. You don't want them to. All right. Locate a public phone or a neighbor's phone near the house, or advise your domestic staff. Communications is important in an emergency. Children should be taught to use the phones and the radios and what to say if they have to call, as they are often ignored in serious incidents and could possibly signal a warning, without anybody realizing that without the threat knowing that that's what they're doing. An emergency contact system should be established so that the help can be rushed to your location should you come under attack. Select a system that will allow direct contact with your response forces, your office, and your neighbors. The system should consist of a primary address system such as a radio or cell phone, or in an alternate system such as a loud horn or alarm system. You can also have a covert system depending on how much time you have. If you come under attack, activate as many systems as possible to ensure your call for help gets out, and you need to test your communications equipment frequently to ensure that it works. Even your alternates. Remember, primary, alternate, contingency, and emergency. So weapons, if you're allowed to have them where you're at. If you're in the States, of course you can have them. So if guns are kept inside the residence, make sure you have you follow the local laws governing their use, and the weapons must be legally registered. Weapons should be loaded and stored in a secure place, and they need to be kept out of the hands of children. They must be accessible to those who need them, and restricted from children and those untrained in their use. It is advisable to keep a gun in the house because if it is inadvisable to keep a gun in the house because of local laws or personal reasons, consider using stun guns, mace, or clubs. If these weapons are kept in the residence, safety still has to be paramount. Make sure the chosen weapon systems are properly maintained and kept out of the reach of children and those untrained in them. You need to train with the weapons, whatever they are. Training involves more than just reading the instructions. If you are not proficient in the use of a particular weapon, train with someone who is. There are civilian and military schools that offer instruction on pistol shooting. Many books, VCR tapes also demonstrate proper techniques for different types of defensive weapons. However, most important when using a weapon is the mindset. If you are not willing to use the weapon to save your life or the life of a loved one, then that weapon, whatever it is, will become a danger to you. If for any reason you are unwilling to use a weapon, do not pick one up, do not pull one out, do not attempt to use it. A weapon is not used to intimidate. It is not used to scare or threaten people who are meaning to do you harm. If you feel so threatened that you need to get a weapon out to use, then you need to use the weapon immediately. There are many instances where weapons have been taken from people who hesitated or refused to move to use them, and they have been used against them. That's a fatal hesitation. If you feel so threatened you have to pull a weapon, then you use a weapon. Are there any questions on a layered defense? All right. If there are, like I said, hit me up. Let's move on to behavioral aspects of the family. Educate and train family members in personal security. Family members require awareness, education, and training in personal security just as you do. You should cultivate an interest in and attract participation from all family members in the security efforts to protect yourselves and them. All right. There are certain behavioral aspects concerning family members that you should take into account. Know the location of your family member at all times. In the event of attack or the threat of one, you will be in a better frame of mind to deal with the situation if you know where everybody's at. All right. It is also important that dependents, family members, staff, etc., do not establish routines or patterns. You, as the sponsor or the head of the house or head of security or father or however you want to term it, should ensure this. People often attend church services at the same time and place each week. Often, parents establish specific times for dropping off and picking up their children for school activities. School bus drivers or shuttle services are traditionally routine followers. All right. And don't forget about school sports and gym routines, baseball practices, baseball games. A lot of these things are published in the newspaper or in newsletters. Gymnastics, volleyball, whatever it is. You got to avoid the routines as much as possible. All right. You need to brief the family members on the individual or personal protective plans that are in place for the house and for themselves. All family members must be thoroughly understand their role and responsibilities. Can terrorists get to you through your family? Of course they can. Very few people could stand being coerced if a family member was kidnapped. Doing these things will give you a better peace of mind and increase their security and the possibility of becoming that hard target, forcing the terrorist or other threat to move to someone else. So for servants or employees, you need to ensure they're trustworthy and are trained in personal security also. All right. You need to ensure that they had a background check run on them before they were hired by a reputable company or through the local law enforcement. All right. Now you need to brief them on. For employees, they can either be a vulnerability or a contribution to household security. If they are trustworthy, you can incorporate them as a positive aspect of the security process. Brief your employees thoroughly on the subject of visitor control. Have them, rather than family members, answer the door. Instruct the servants not to admit strangers, such as repairmen or policemen, without specific approval. Doors should not be opened or unlocked unless visitors have been properly identified. You need to have the visitor slide an identification card through the mail slot in the door or underneath it, or give pertinent identification data through the intercom. Call the visitor's office using a number obtained from the telephone directory or other verified source. Don't use the one on the card they gave you because it could be one they made up. All right? If the visit is legitimate, the visitor will not mind the inconvenience. When visitors are expected, brief servants as to their expected time of arrival and purpose of the visit so that only the property parties are admitted. If your servants are indigenous to the area, they may be able to provide an in-depth knowledge as to what is unusual or suspicious that you might not otherwise notice. Instruct your employees to inform you of all suspicious or unusual activities. Many employees or servants are trained to answer the telephone with the family name. Brief your servants against this procedure and inform them not to give any information over the phone until the caller has been identified. Instruct your employees not to accept any mail, especially packages at the home. Route your mail through your company, business, or through the embassy. The mail staff there is specifically trained to to recognize suspicious packages and to deal with possible bomb threats. If an unexpected package arrives and you choose not to accept it, have the deliverer open the package at a safe distance from your residence, but at a point where you can still observe it. Servants should know how to react to emergencies. For example, someone who is in need of assistance or who needs to use a telephone. Instruct employees on the proper procedures for in-home emergencies such as fire and injury and type of terrorist or criminal attack. They should talk to someone help by telephone or by radio and who to call in these types of emergencies. So, behavioral aspects when you are absent from your residence for an extended period. You need to create the appearance of occupancy when away from your residence. Ask neighbors to place garbage in your garbage cans. If your mail is delivered to your residence, arrange for someone to pick it up daily. Having mail delivered to your residence is a dangerous practice and should be avoided if possible, but if you do, just have somebody pick it up or ensure the employees pick it up or the servants who are still working while you're gone. Set timers on lights and other noise-producing appliances to turn on and off at different times to give the appearance of being home. Arrange for lawn maintenance and other services to continue on a regular basis. Discontinue newspaper delivery service or have a neighbor collect the newspapers. Newspaper deliveries might also be a dangerous practice, or if you have employees and servants who are still coming in to maintain the residence, they can take care of that stuff. Either turn down the telephone ringer or unplug the telephone and the answering machine or discontinue service for a while. Inform the local police or security guards, if trustworthy, your neighbors and your regional security officers or company security officers and etc., that you will be away from your residence for a while, and you can even ask them to drive by and take a look at it. Park your automobile in a safe, secure place. If no such place is available, consider loaning the car to a friend or neighbor. The measure is to prevent terrorists from planting a device on your vehicle while you're away. You can even take it into work and leave it in a secure parking garage or inside the embassy, depending on where you're at. And then take a taxi home for your vacation. Turn on any alarm systems you have and for your home and vehicle and leave them on. Make sure that people know that you're going to be gone, so when they react, they'll react appropriately. So the next is going to be office security, or what other primary area which you spend a lot of time at. Do not discount the office or other primary area as a terrorist target. Remember, it's wherever your time and place is predictable. To terrorists, the office symbolizes American or foreign presence in their area or in the neighborhood. It depends on where you're at. Look at some of the riots that they've had in the United States here recently. We have seen an increase in the number of U.S. facilities and embassies being targeted for terrorist bombings. The overall security of the facility may be someone else's responsibility, but you are still a vital link in the security process. Identify and report suspicious vehicles and personnel. After all, if the building is bombed, you may become a victim. So a primary area, you probably heard me say it a couple times, is any location you spend a significant amount of time. You build routines in these areas also, and you need to ensure you follow or institute some security measures to ensure these locations are considered hard targets. Okay. So, protection in the office or other primary areas. Windows. Arrange the interior of the office so that the occupants do not sit or work in direct line in the windows. In the event of an explosion outside, the windows may shatter, sending fragmentation throughout the office with lethal force. To lessen this danger, use heavy drapes and blinds in front of the windows. Keep the drapes and blinds closed whenever possible. Consider laminating the windows with a plastic sheeting that darkens or mirrors them. Lamination will restrict the view into the room and add extra strength to the windows in case of an explosion. Inform security personnel if a visitor is expected during non-duty hours. This information will alert the guards as to whether or not a visitor is authorized. It will also give investigators an approximate time and place should a person be kidnapped from his office during non-duty hours. Do not allow loiterers in or around your building. You may post a guard to provide a show of force, but your secretary will be able to provide a deterrence as well. Position the secretary's desk so that anyone entering the building must walk past it. All right. Consider having everyone sign in and out of the building. Also install a buzzer so that in an emergency, the secretary can summon security and alert the occupants of the building. Parcel and mail control. You need to designate an area and have someone specially trained to handle incoming mail and packages. Set aside an area to store any unusual deliveries until law enforcement or EOD can be notified to come check them. The holding area should be a closet or a safe, as this increases the effectiveness of the explosive by tampering the explosive's pressure. Should not be. Okay, stop. Go back. The holding area should not be a closet or a safe, as this increases the effectiveness of the explosive by tamping the explosive's pressure. A small area will also increase the amount of fragmentation caused by an explosion. Carefully set suspicious objects in a large drum filled with sawdust or place netting across the top of the drum and set the device on the netting. Male representatives should be trained in bomb detection techniques. All right, you need to lock any unoccupied utility areas, offices, and restrooms. This will prevent anyone from hiding or placing a bomb in these areas. You need to have contingency plans for emergencies, fires, bombings, bomb threat, hostage taking, etc. Active shooter. Update the plans regularly and brief all personnel. Do not display evacuation routes in public areas. Avoid setting a pattern when conducting drills. Don't rally at the same location each time. If the terrorists know where the rally point is, they can call in a threat to the office, wait until the crowd of office workers gathers at the rally point, and then detonate an explosive device there. So, we're going to quickly go over postal bomb recognition. All right. So, unknown or strange postmark. The mail may be postmarked from a strange or unknown place, usually outside your normal channel of correspondence. There's no return address. Leaving the return address off the mail may be an attempt by the terrorist to reduce the amount of evidence on an envelope. Also, rather than using the return address that may be determined erroneous by postal authorities, the terrorist may leave the information off, hoping to avoid suspicion. Excessive postage. It is risky to ask a mail clerk to weigh a letter bomb to determine the exact amount of postage. Postal personnel are trained to look for suspicious-looking packages. Therefore, it is safer for the terrorist or other criminal to add additional postage rather than risk being caught with the bomb. One of the first recorded uses of mail bombs occurred in the United States around the turn of the century. Fortunately, because of insufficient postage, the bombs never reached their intended targets. Unexpected delivery or abnormal, unusual size or shape. The mail may have an abnormal, excessive, or unusual size because of the construction of the firing device and other bomb parts inside. Protruding wires or strings. Strings or wires may protrude from the attached or be attached to the item. The bomb maker may have constructed the device in a sloppy manner which could cause unsecured wires to work loose. A more likely reason for an exposed wire is that the army wire that the courier did not remove, fearing the device would detonate instantaneously. The Provisional Irish Republic Army has devised a method to ensure that the courier pulls the army wire. They affix the courier's name and address to the wire. If it is not pulled, the authorities have the name to which to start their investigation. So this way they make sure the army wire is always pulled. So misspelled words. Misspellings on a letter or package could occur because the writer is simply not familiar with the English language or with the titles used by the company or how to spell English names. So inconsistency between the return address and the postmark. The return address and postmark may be different if there is a return address. For example, the return address may include may indicate a place in Oregon, whereas the postmark may prove that the envelope was actually mailed from Frankfurt, Federal Republic of Germany. Foreign handwriting. Handwriting that appears to be foreign may indicate that the bomber or whoever wrote the item is from another country, and usually it means you can just tell the difference. Trust me. Odd smell. The item may have an odd smell, such as shoe polish, almonds, or even marzipan, which is a sweet almond paste used predominantly in Germany for candles. Heavily perfumed packages or letters may also indicate the presence of a device. Unusual weight or size. The item may be unusual heavy or light for its size. A normal envelope weighs 1 or 2 ounces, but a letter bomb may weigh 4 to 6 ounces. The added weight may increase the thickness of the letter, and the envelope may measure 1/4 to 1/2 inch thick. The envelope may appear to contain a small report or pamphlet rather than a few sheets of paper. The package may be unusually light if it contains a firing device, a power source, and an explosive rather than content listed on the exterior package, such as books or other materials. Unbalanced. The package may be unbalanced or even because of the way the explosives are placed or because they have shifted to one side. Springiness in the top, the bottom, or the side. Springiness may result if the bomb has a pressure release type switch. The wires used in the construction of the device may also cause the springiness. Inflexibility, if the firing device and other contents may have been mounted on material so as to prevent the shifting while traveling through the mail system. The letter may be inflexible. On the other hand, if the internal components have simply been glued or mounted to the sheet of explosives, the letter may stay in a flexed or semi-flexed position when bent. All right, grease marks or stains. Grease marks or stains, such as those caused by potato chips or French fries, may show on the outside of an envelope because many explosives sweat or extrude the oil used in their manufacture, such as motor oil, Semtex H, or vegetable oil, C4. And metal inside. Electrical wires, batteries, or other metal attached to a plastic cap may be detected when passed through a metal detector or density detector. Just a graphic from the United States Postal Service about what it looks like. This is actually a letter bomb envelope that was recovered after it exploded. It's the title, not correct, incorrect address, incorrect zip format. Just another example. Return address, stains on the envelope. It's inflexible because it was solid. Excessive postage. Now, a way to deploy protection devices, especially for those letter package bombs that could be containing metal subtype in it. Although the 15 characteristics we talked about are very helpful in identifying mail bombs, a number of manufactured devices are designed to detect abnormal densities within an envelope, and detection equipment can scan the items like with X-ray machines. So the devices provide accurate detection confirmation of suspicious packages and increased search efficiency. So most offices won't have this for your home. So you can use things like a STED finder, which is actually just a little metal detector. STED finders will detect metal or batteries in the package just as a field expedient method of checking. You can also get actual metal detectors now, hand wands and other things. The picture is an example of a STED finder being used as a metal detector. Like I said, metal detectors are easy to buy now. You can get the ones used for security, hand wands to test people, and you can get little metal detectors used for treasure hunting. They make handheld size ones for that too. Both will detect metal in packages and bombs. Okay. So a suspicious item is one that exhibits unusual characteristics, either appearance or placement. and for which a legitimate purpose cannot be readily established. To avoid unnecessary disruption of the network and alarm to visitors in the facility, volunteers should first try to, or employees or security force, should first try to identify the owner of an unintended item. If no owner can be identified, they should apply the HOT acronym, and this is something that was done by the Department of Homeland Security. They came up with this. This helps to decide quickly whether an unintended item is typically a lost property or whether it is suspicious. It is designed with safety in mind as well as minimizing disruption. So here it is, HOT. Hidden, i.e. is it placed where they will not be readily seen or noticed, so it's placed in an unusual manner. It's obviously suspicious, either by physical appearance, by placement, or because of circumstances in which it was discovered. It's not what you would typically find or expect to find in that type of environment. Lost items are typically not hidden, often left where people congregate before moving to be somewhere else. They are not obviously suspicious. They do not usually exhibit improvised wiring, timers, putty-like substances, strange smells. And typical of what you would normally expect to find in the environment, a judgment must be made by those people intimate with that type of environment knowledge. So if it's is it suspicious? If yes, we're going to use RAIN. If not, it's just an unintended package and just treat it as such. All right, so RAIN. RAIN is the second part of this acronym. If the item is suspicious, you should follow this. Recognize the indicators, avoid the area, isolate the suspected item, and notify the appropriate emergency response services. Again, this is a process set up by DHS. Did a good job on it. It's easy to remember, it's simple to remember, and a lot of security services use this now for facilities. So, a bomb threat checklist for a facility. A bomb threat checklist is important as it gives the person receiving the bomb threat, regardless of process, mail, telephone, in-person, note, email, a set of responses that can be used to help gather the information necessary to help determine if the threat is real and information on the type of bomb and its placement. It also gives a set of instructions to the employee receiving the threat that will provide LEO information they need to track down the person making the bomb threat. This checklist, along with your bomb threat plan that you need to make, will give you guidance to your employees, including the mailroom, on the information needed and the responses that your chain of command will need to have for contact information and who needs to respond to this type of threat. All right, and this is, once again, DHS's bomb threat call procedure. It lists out everything you need to do. It's a good tool. They did a good job on it. You can download this from their website, PDF form, print it up, and put it everywhere you need to in your business or your home. Okay. Lastly, we're going to talk about vehicle power bomb search. This is something you'll do as a part of your individual protective measures. So, one of the key reasons to conduct a vehicle bomb search is to let any would-be surveillance know that you perform a thorough systematic search of your vehicle before you get into it. This makes you a harder target. It shows you are aware of threats and you take actions to mitigate your chance of becoming a victim. If they try to place a bomb in or on your vehicle, they will have to conceal it very well, thus adding time to the operation. All right, so this makes you a hard target. You want to be seen doing this. All right, an efficient bomb search should take anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes. If it takes longer than that, most people are going to find excuses not to do it because of the time involved. A two-man buddy team will decrease the amount of time needed for the work. It will also increase the thoroughness of the search since a second set of eyes will double-check each side. Familiarity with every part of your vehicle is paramount to an efficient search. Learn to recognize what looks normal in the engine compartment, the trunk, the underside, and the passenger compartment. While you are searching, you're looking for telltale signs of tampering, pieces of tape, discarded wires, stripped insulation, scuff or grease marks on the exterior of the vehicle, or foreign materials on or around the vehicle. Quickly recognize signs of tampering. Let a layer of dust, or dirt coat the outside of the engine compartment of your vehicle. Also allow a layer of dirt and mud to coat the underside of the vehicle, except for the fuel tank. To conduct the search, you will need some basic tools. The tools are a small mirror mounted on a telescoping handle and a flashlight. Perform the search each time you approach your vehicle after it has been left unattended in an unsecured area. The terrorist surveillance must be convinced that you are too hard a target to use a vehicle bomb against, because you search your vehicle every time. Perform search each time you search your vehicle after, yeah, okay. Did that. Right. So, first thing you want to do, you want to observe the vehicle and the area immediately surrounding it, about 10 to 15 meters, for signs of tampering, bomb litter, wire, tape, etc. Improvised explosive devices may be either victim activated or command detonated. If you sense that something is wrong or that the vehicle is not the way you left it, leave the vehicle and call the authorities. More than likely, the police will arrive first to investigate. If they find a device, EOD will be called in to take care of it. An EOD team can conduct a thorough search in 2 to 3 hours. It will probably take you 2 to 3 days to put your vehicle back together after the team is through. That alone should motivate you to present yourself as a hard target. Your lives and the lives of your family and loved ones are a high price to pay for complacency or just being lazy. So triggering methods for one of these bombs: electrical, victim initiated, remote detonated by the threat, momentum, motion, flammable, tripwire, or it's timed. So now you're going to move around to the front of the vehicle. Once you have completed your perimeter search, move to the front of the vehicle and visually divide it in half lengthwise. Continue to search in either direction. Inspect the grills for wires or any material placed behind it. Using a mirror, look underneath and behind the front bumper. Also look closely into the hood area and check for signs of forced entry. Do not put your hand anywhere you haven't searched with your eyes. If you haven't looked there, don't put your hand there. Move to the side of the vehicle and observe the bottom of the tires, front and rear, where they make contact with the ground. Look for pressure or pressure release firing devices. Park on paved surfaces whenever possible so this can't be done. When the vehicle is parked on dirt, it is much easier for the terrorist to place a switch in front or behind the tires. Inspect the underside of the vehicle or inspect the underside of the wheel well for a bomb. Many times magnets are used to attach devices to the underside of the wheel well. Inspect behind the top of the tire and the coil springs. Don't mistake a cylindrical object located outside the springs for a shock absorber. Continue moving around the side of the vehicle while inspecting the side, the underside, the rear tire, and the rear wheel well. Examine the vent window and the weather stripping for signs of forcible entry. That means you're looking for cuts and tears. Check to see if the paint or molding show any signs of a coat hanger or Slim Jim being used to unlock the vehicle. Also look inside the passenger compartment for hidden intruders or obvious signs of intrusion. Inspect the gas cap for tampering. You should have a locking gas cap installed on the vehicle so that a bomb or incendiary capsule cannot be dropped into your gas tank. To detect possible tampering, place a hidden mark on the gas cap and leave it in a certain position, for example 2 o'clock. If the mark is not in the original position, you will know that someone has tampered with the gas cap. This should be the first time you touch the vehicle during the search. Be cautious of new vehicles that have incorporated electronic gas cap releases. This supplies terrorists with an electronic power source to detonate something. As you inspect the side and rear of the vehicle, also examine the entire exhaust system, the muffler, the drive shaft for devices, especially around the universal joints. Next, inspect the rear. Check the trunk for signs of forced entry. Check the opening of the exhaust pipe for signs of a device. A screen mesh welded over the exhaust pipe opening or bolts inserted through the exhaust pipe and welded in place will prevent devices from being placed in it. Extra effort must be made when checking the bottom and sides of the gas tank because the gas tank is generally the most explosive area of the vehicle. Small soap discharges are easily concealed and difficult to detect. Continue to the insert side of the vehicle and follow the same procedure as listed. This is an example of a bolt through the exhaust pipe. So you're now ready to actually enter the vehicle. First, check the door locks. If the vehicle was locked when you left it and locked when you turned, do not get inside. Immediately report the incident. Next, look inside the vehicle windows and observe the opposite door for strange objects or wires. You can look in either of the side windows as well through the windshield. In some models, you can look through the windshield and see almost to the rear seat. When looking inside a door, you may also be able to see all the way to the floorboard. Do not touch the vehicle or lean on it. This could cause a trimmer switch to function. Once you determine that nothing is wrong with the vehicle, closely examine the door, especially the seam where the door meets the body. Look for wires or objects attached to the door from the inside. Next, open the door slightly. Using your mirror and flashlight, continue to inspect the seam. Repeat the procedure until the door is completely open. Next, you need to inspect the rearview mirror and headrests to ensure that they have not been replaced with improvised explosive devices or IEDs have been inserted into them. Next, inspect the sun visors. Whenever you leave the vehicle, make sure your sun visors are in the down position so that no device can be placed and hidden from your view during inspection. To save time while searching, leave the glove compartment open and empty ashtrays and leave them open also if you have them in your car. Consider removing possible hide sites such as the glove compartment and ashtrays from the interior of your vehicle. Next, look under the dashboard. You will not be able to identify every single wire, but you should know the general features and be able to determine whether an IED has been planted. If possible, tape or flex band as many wires together as you can reach prior to this so it makes it easier to inspect. You'll have a much better chance of noticing wires that have been added when that's been done. Next, check under the front seat with your mirror. Never let your hands reach where your eyes cannot see, and do not lean or rest your hands on any part of the vehicle, especially the seat at this point. Use the same procedures for opening the other doors and inspect the rear seat. Check the front seat again, looking from the rear toward the front. Keeping your vehicle's interior clean and free of debris limits the ease of hiding a device in your vehicle, which will simplify your search and make it much harder for the threat. Inspect under the hood of the vehicle. Many late model vehicles have hood releases in the interior. If your vehicle does not, install locks on the hood. Keep it from being open. Before you actually release the hood, have a second person hold the hood down to prevent it from snapping upward from the hood latch releases. This jolt is often enough to trigger a trimmer switch or allow a pressure release trigger to fire. If you're alone, place a heavy object, about 10 pounds, on top of the hood to hold it down. Once the hood has been released from the inside, slowly raise it and check around the seam as you did the doors. Look for unusually clean wires that contrast with dirty wires in the engine compartment. Count the spark plug wires to determine whether an extra wire has been added. Check the inside of the air cleaner. Make the same mark on the air cleaner as you did on the gas cap. When you check it, look for the signs of tampering. Check the exhaust manifold for thermal switches, and then check along the firewall, which is the common place for planting devices. Since there's not much reinforcement between the engine compartment and the passenger compartment, and a bomb placed in front of the engine block would have part of its force deflected away from the victim. Also check the chassis supports for IEDs. So before opening the trunk, you need to inspect the seam. Hold the trunk down as you turn the key to prevent the initial spring. Crouch down so that you can look in the trunk and see any wires or IEDs. A flashlight can be of great assistance. Following the same procedures used before the hood, open the trunk completely. Many vehicles have deep wells by the rear quarter panels that make excellent spaces for IEDs. You must also carefully inspect the spare tire area. Check the partition separating the trunk from the rear passenger compartment. A small soap discharge can be employed very effectively since there are only wire springs, padding, and the upholstery of the seat separating it from the trunk area. Make sure your spare tire is the same as your gas cap and air cleaner. Mark your spare tire the same as you do your gas cap and your air cleaner. All right. A two-person search will provide a more thorough search of the vehicle. One man works his way to the left, the other works their way to the right, each starting from the center of the vehicle. Each man makes a thorough search of what his partner covered, and both complete the search at the starting point. Each person should communicate with the other when finding something unusual. All right. The reason for this is to allow a second searcher to move away from the vehicle when you see something unusual in case it goes off. All right. If you are searching a vehicle by yourself, it makes no difference whether you work left or right as long as you inspect the entire vehicle. If the vehicle search has been tried and tested in training, this vehicle search has been tried and tested in training in real-world situations. While the search may not turn up a well-placed device, it's a very good deterrent to the potential bomber or terrorist that's pulling surveillance on you. And communication is key when doing a two-man search. Let the other person know if you see something suspicious so they can move away and you can deal with it. All right? Questions? Once again, just hit me up with questions. Sorry I'm so tongue-tied today, but it's just that day. All right? So, class objectives. We talked about what you've done before you leave for a trip or an area. How do you determine the terrorist threat in a high-risk area? We discussed how terrorists identify and select their targets. They want that soft target, which you are not. You are going to be a personal protective measure demon, and you will be a hard target. We talked about what protection measures for movement as a pedestrian and what you need to do while you're driving. What protection measures can be taken while traveling by commercial air. We discussed hotel and residential security. We discussed protection measures in the office to include postal bomb recognition and bomb threat awareness. We also discussed the technique for conducting a car bomb search. So the purpose of this class is to make you undesirable as a target and unpredictable to hostile personnel. Remember perspective. It's what the outside person looking in sees and not what you know. Whatever you see, it needs to be reported to someone. Do not hesitate. How many times have you seen on TV where someone said, well, I thought something wasn't right and he just didn't act right and blah, blah, blah. Report what you see. So if you see something, say something. That's a DHS program. The Department of Homeland Security has a website that contains material information on recognizing and reporting suspicious activity. Go to it, use it in your organization, use it at your house. All right. Hopefully this class will help you move those crosshairs off yourself and onto another softer target. Right? We want to be the hard target. Do not let this be you. More effort and emphasis is likely to have gone into the planning the funeral for a person than he or his unit or employer devoted to his security and survival. You are solely responsible for your personal protective and individual protective measures. You are the one who determines if you're a hard target or a soft target. You can do this. So be safe out there. Any questions, hit me up. Have a great day. Be